This is Mike.
And this is Beck.
And we are Brew Crime. All right, well, welcome to episode 2. This one, it's coming up to September. We're going to pair our stories with everyone's favorite time of year, back to school.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe it's that time of year already. I don't know what happened to the summer.
Yeah, time flies.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually really enjoy this because I have to drive for work, and this couple months is brutal for traffic.
Yeah, when I was walking over here tonight, and there's leaves covering the sidewalks already, and I'm just like, too soon.
Yeah.
Way too soon. But I'm psyched about all the Halloween stuff in the stores, so I can't really have it both ways.
Yeah, you can try. All right,
Okay.
So you want to tease your story?
So my story is about Joanne Chambers, and she was an elementary school teacher with Pocono Mountain School District in Monroe, Pennsylvania. And it was a job that she really enjoyed, and she was popular with her students and got along with her co-workers, or so she thought.
Perfect. All right, for this story, we've paired a beer from Trinity Brew. They are from Colorado Springs, Colorado, and this is the Menacing Apple, a Harvest Apple Saison. I like one of the pairings here, paired with Vermont unicorn cheese. Don't know what that is, but I love it.
We have to find out.
And also grilled fruit, fat-ass stuffed pork chops, with PHAT.
Who's grilling fruit?
Crazy people. And I love the label. It's got this like really menacing looking apple. Got this really angry looking face with big teeth and bow and arrow and a snake on it.
There'll be a picture of that
Yeah.
on Brew Crime.
All right. It's got a kind of cloudy yellowish color, a little bit of floaties, a white head, kind of dissipated pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
Definite kind of apple and citrusy notes. It's got kind of almost like a wine hint to it.
Yeah.
It's got some spices that you expect from a Saison.
Feels appropriate for fall, too.
Yeah.
The apple.
Well, sort of a harvest beer. It's kind of like a sour green apple, a little bit. And it's got just some sort of basic citrus to it.
It's really effervescent.
Yeah. Not a lot coming through on the grain side. It's kind of still winey. Got lots of apple. And you can tell it's a beer, but it's not all that beery.
Mm-hmm.
That's good, though.
Yeah, it's definitely not sweet like even a dry cider. Or they still have that little bit of sweet, and it's definitely not sweet. It's more crisp or refreshing.
Yeah, well, it's got that nice tart finish. Kind of
like you said, more like green apple than...
Yeah. It's like sort of like biting into is it Granny Smith? I don't have a lot of apples anymore.
Yeah. Those are the ones Stephanie always buys.
Nice.
Okay.
The more I'm actually drinking this, the more lemony it's getting.
There's something in the scent that I can't identify. I'm not sure.
You're thinking like a spice or...
I'm not sure. I don't have my descriptive words here. It's definitely... There's a lot more to the scent than there is to the flavor, but I don't mean that like in a bad way. I feel like if there was as much flavor as there is scent, it would be too much.
Yeah, probably.
But it's just like, it's refreshing. It's nice.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a cider or a wine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get into the story then that we've paired with this.
Okay. So this story I have titled, One Rotten Apple Spoils the Bunch, or in this case, One Rotten Teacher Spoils It for Everyone. Joanne Chambers was an elementary school teacher with Pocono Mountain School District in Monroe, Pennsylvania. It was a job that she enjoyed. She was popular with her students and got along with her co-workers, or so she thought. In the summer of 1993, she was at the beginning of a very rough 18 months. She started receiving threatening letters and being harassed in a very intimidating manner. Someone had taped a razor blade under the door handle of her car, and 20 days later, she received a typewritten letter that simply said, "You're sliced."
Yikes.
Presumably, the same person had left 42 threatening letters about Chambers in many places where they could be easily found. This was everywhere from school mail baskets of fellow teachers and the principal to somebody actually posting a letter about her on the front door of the general store.
Holy shit.
So these letters frequently referred to her as "you stupid bitch," And many of these letters, including the one that was posted on the front door of the general store, had Chambers' face superimposed over a picture of a nude woman. Some letters also referenced how many opportunities per week this person had to poison Chambers' coffee. On March 14th, a letter was sent to the principal notifying him that Joanne Chambers enjoyed Jack Daniels and that there was a bottle of Jack Daniels in her desk. When Chambers checked her desk, there was a bottle there, and some of her stuff was missing, including a picture of her with a fellow teacher and each of their 10-year-old sons. And it was from this photo that the image of her face, that's the photo that they used to put on the threatening letters.
Okay.
So this Jack Daniels incident was quite near the beginning of the threatening letters.
Definitely.
On April 14th, 1994, she found crap smeared on her chair at work.
Oh.
Yeah.
Makes for a shitty day.
Ha-ha! On June 8th of 1994, someone left a Barbie that was made to look like Chambers at the school. Its hair was even cut and styled the same, and it had a razor blade lodged in its throat and red food dye on it that resembled blood.
And it sounded so sweet at first.
Yeah, imitation is the highest form of compliment.
Yes.
Well, not once you get to the blood part.
Yeah, I know.
I remember trying to get Barbie's hair to do anything at all when I was a kid, and it always looked the same. If you, left that elastic in for more than a day, then that was how her hair had, that dent in it for at least a month after. So whoever sent the doll was clearly an evil genius. Mm-hmm. If they figured out how to do Barbie's hair so that it was styled after an actual person, obviously evil genius.
Yeah, I never paid attention to Barbie because it was just something that G.I. Joe saved or killed, so I don't know.
When we were kids, we had Barbie, and the only way to get my brother to play was if he could be the babies and the Corvette. And inevitably, there was always a heinous car accident because the babies stole the car, and it always ended in tragedy.
Sounds like a guy.
Yeah. It was a pretty sweet red Corvette, though.
Nice.
Anyway, somebody sent a blood-soaked animal liver to the school, and it was addressed to the lead investigator.
How thoughtful.
Yeah.
Dinner.
Sure, I'm sure it smelled great, too. Many of the letters that she received were attacks on her teaching ability, and this led investigators to believe that the person sending the letter was one of Joanne's co-workers. To narrow down the suspects, the investigators decided to polygraph other teachers at the school. All of the teachers passed, all except one, Paula Naraki. A staff member also remembered that Naraki referred to the superintendent as Colonel Klink.
I love it.
Which just sounds like something ridiculous to remember, but one of the letters that was sent to Chambers referred to the superintendent in this manner. So because of these two things, the investigation into Naraki continued. School officials spent hours filming Naraki's movements in the school. All they garnished from this was her picking up a cup of coffee that belonged to Chambers. This supposed evidence was actually still used in court. They specifically mentioned that she went into Chambers' classroom and picked up this cup of coffee.
The horror.
It's not like she was poisoned. How is that relevant? I mean, I get that it was mentioned in the letters, but if nothing happened because of it, who gives a shit? What I loved about this bit of information was that while they were watching all this completely useless video during the trial, was that the jurors had to tilt their heads to watch the video because the cameras were accidentally installed upside down.
Nice.
So, this case is on Forensic Files, and when they show the clips from the video, you can see that the date and timestamp are clearly upside down. And if they were filming her for days and days and days, they didn't notice that? After day one,
That's
you're reviewing
pathetic.
the tape, you're not like, hey, all those numbers are upside down.
Maybe they
fix
didn't.
it?
Yeah, maybe they didn't even look at it. They just recorded for a couple of days, and they went, "Oh, let's go look now."
I
Idiots.
guess. Anyway, Naraki easily explained this action by saying the only reason she even retrieved the cup was because Chambers asked her to. That makes sense, right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, they're co-workers. Maybe Chambers had another class to go to, so she asked her co-worker to retrieve her cup. No big deal. In November of 1994, Chambers reported to police that she was forced off the highway by another car. And after she was forced off the highway, she made eye contact with the other driver, Paula Naraki. Naraki was arrested and charged with reckless endangerment, harassment, stalking, assault, and terroristic threats.
Jesus.
If convicted, she could face up to 5 years in prison. According to the prosecution, what instigated the harassment was professional jealousy. According to the defense, what instigated the harassment was Joanne's desperate need for attention, which she fulfilled by stalking herself. I freaking love that sound. So that was awesome. For my wife. Her and I both love that sound, and it's irresistible to me. I have a deep love for horrible B movies, and that's like the most classic B movie sound.
Mm-hmm. It's almost a silent film sound.
Yeah, you can totally spell that out. Okay, the defense believed that the only reason that Naraki was being identified as the perpetrator was because she didn't pander to Chambers like the other teachers did. Good for her. The defense began with DNA testing. DNA was recovered from the back of one of the envelopes and from one of the stamps on one of the letters. The defense had it analyzed, and both samples matched Joanne Chambers. Joanne explained this by saying that she was left alone while being interviewed, and the stamp fell off, so she licked it to reapply it.
Totally makes sense, yeah.
When licking it didn't work, she used glue. How considerate.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you just carry a stick of glue around in your purse. Like, I get that she's a teacher, but I know teachers, and I'm pretty sure they don't have a stick of glue in their purse.
Maybe kindergarten teachers.
For what?
I don't know, all the crafts and shit they do.
Emergency construction paper adhesive?
Yeah, art surgery.
So after Chambers had mentioned this, the defense had the stamp tested, and it was proved that the only glue that was present on the stamp was the stamp glue. There was no additional glue present, so clearly that was a lie. But even besides that, if the police are interviewing someone, why the fuck are they leaving evidence in there? No supervision.
Yeah.
Just leave it in there, no problem. Like, that's just stupid.
But there's a lot of stupid police out there, so...
Well, there's a lot of stupid people, regardless of profession.
You just have to start researching enough cases and you go, man, people are stupid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just have to be out in public to think people are stupid.
That's true.
The defense's next step was to interview teachers from Chambers' previous school, and 3 of them testified about a very similar pattern of harassment that Chambers had previously claimed occurred. In the early 1980s, she accused multiple teachers of threatening to burn her house down. Someone even smeared crap on her chair. Sound familiar?
Just a little, yeah.
So Jane Pardue worked with Chambers at the time and remembered receiving a memo from the superintendent to report to the library. Upon arrival, the rest of the teaching staff, which was only 6 other teachers, were told that Chambers had received harassing phone calls, including threats that her house would be burnt down. And in a very accusatory tone, the superintendent said, quote, "It is someone sitting in this room." From the beginning, Pardue felt that Chambers was taking lies to the superintendent and trying to get the other teachers in trouble. Having worked for the school for 22 years, now she just wants to be as far from Chambers as possible.
Everyone's had a shitty coworker like that before. Not that bad, but you've always had one that's...
Like 22 years, and then one shitbag ruins it.
Yeah. I mean, usually these days it's the students ruining it, not the teachers.
Yeah. Lois Renda remembered it as being a very harmonious place before Chambers arrived. She recalled that Chambers frequently spun tales about her life. She once told a group of teachers that she'd broken her leg jumping out of the window to escape a fire at Marywood College, where she was studying to be a nun. However, later she said that it was broken when she jumped out of a window to escape the nuns that were trying to force her to stay at the college.
Wow.
I don't even know.
I mean, I'd be scared of nuns too, but come on.
Okay. During Haraki's trial, the defense also entered police records which indicated that before the current stalking began, Chambers had complained to authorities over 15 times regarding anonymous threats. In January of 1996, Naraki was acquitted. Not just acquitted, though. Some of the jurors actually hugged her after court let out.
Wow.
She was reinstated as a teacher March 25th, 1997. In early 1998, she sued the school district, the police, and Chambers herself. Good for her.
Yeah.
Like, rightly so. What the hell kind of evidence was that to file charges against somebody?
Definitely. It's pretty pathetic.
We've got you on camera. You're carrying a cup of coffee. Like...
Should have been tea.
Yeah. She alleged that, she as in Paula Naraki alleged that they did basically nothing to investigate the allegations before filing charges. Totally accurate. She settled with the school district for $600,000 and with Chambers for $25,000. That may seem like a lot of money, but she had to pay for all the DNA testing and, like, the testing on the stamps for the glue and whatever, and she'd spent over $100,000 in legal fees. And she was out of work for over a year because of these bullshit charges.
That's crazy, yeah. She needs better justice than that.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, they just dragged her name through the mud. And based on what?
It was a witch hunt.
Like,
nothing.
she'd been a good teacher, completely reliable for years and years and years, and then one person accuses her, a supposed friend and co-worker.
Yeah.
And it's like, end of story. I don't understand at all.
Yeah, no.
And why?
Suck.
So Joanne Chambers still insists that she was being stalked, and both teachers continued to teach afterwards, but in separate schools, obviously.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of people talking about this case and saying that, oh, she must have Munchausen syndrome. But I'm not really sure that fits as a diagnosis, you know what I mean? So I was trying to figure out what it could be, because I'm obviously totally a doctor, right?
You play one on podcast.
That's right. The closest I came up with was something that I'd never heard of, actually. It's called HPD, and it's histrionic personality disorder. The American Psychiatric Association defines it as a personality disorder characterized by a pattern of excessive attention-seeking emotions, usually beginning in early adulthood, including inappropriately seductive behavior, like posting weird, not quite you naked pictures, and an excessive need for approval, which, like, that's what you do when you're self-victimized.
Definitely, yeah.
Such a need for attention and approval by anyone that would possibly give it to you.
I'd almost think split personality, and the one personality was stalking the other.
Yeah. I don't really think that either fits exactly, but if anyone listening wants to armchair diagnose this, please feel free to email us, and we might chat about it on the next episode. That's it for my case, and it's still somehow officially unsolved, because somehow the prosecution didn't see fit to charge Chambers with anything at all.
Yeah, she should not be teaching anymore. That's
what's she teaching these kids? You know what I mean?
Whatever it is, it's not right. That's quite the story.
But yeah, it's a weird one. It's definitely... You should go watch the Forensic Files episode. We'll post a link for that as well. It's a good one. I mean, they're all good, right?
I still have to watch them, damn it.
I can't even believe you. I don't know if we can be friends. I love Forensic Files so much. And I know you do too. You the listener, not Mike. Exactly. He's been deprived. So that's it for Joanne Chambers. Yeah. I guess we'll never know.
All right, my story is not quite as fun as that one. Might be bringing it down a little bit. I'm going to talk about the Gainesville Ripper. To pair this, I've got the collaboration between Twin Sails Brewing and Coalesce Brewing. It's in Port Moody. Coalesce is the brainchild of the former brewmaster of Twin Sails. I guess this beer was in the works before he quit and moved on to another brewery. So the beer is called This Could Have Been Us. And I find that kind of fitting with this story. But it's a beer that they aged in a fooder, which is a big, huge oak barrel, basically, often used in wine production. It's 5.8% alcohol. and it's a sour beer. It's a wild ale with raspberries. It's not quite blood red. It's a little deeper than that, but it's seriously red with a sort of light red head on it. It looks like it's got some floaties in it, which is kind of expected with these kind of beers. It smells like raspberries.
It's like sour fruit roll-ups.
Yeah, I kind of get that.
When we first poured it, it was like strictly smelled like my childhood lunches. But yeah, the sour is definitely coming through now that we've poured it.
And it's got a sweet aroma without being overly sweet, but it's definitely raspberry forward. Mm-hmm. This beer was aged without raspberries, and then right at the end, the last little bit, they threw the raspberries in and let it sit. So it's amazing, the color, the aroma, not even tasting it, just how intensely raspberry this beer is. Mm-hmm. And I'll add that this wasn't a cheap bottle. It's a 500 milliliter bottle, and it was $18. So, I mean, you're looking at wine prices there for non-beer geeks.
Yeah, and it's so weird that Mike chose this one because I was just at the brewery last weekend and had it for the first time there. And yeah, it's like $12 a glass there. But it wasn't quite this dark. I mean, it's always going to be different tap versus bottled.
Oh,
right?
definitely.
But, yeah, so I feel like it's still a new beer for me because the color, even just looking at it, you can tell it's going to be different.
Yeah. It's got big sour notes right up front. It's not overpowering, but it is very sour. A little bit of that vinegar, malt vinegar or something in there, which some people don't like, but I really like in a sour beer. Mm-hmm. But it's tons of raspberries.
Mm-hmm. I love fruits and sour beer, so fruit sour, it's good. Yeah. I think I actually like the bottled better than what I got at the brewery. Not that the one at the brewery wasn't good, it was. But I think I like this better. It's more of a deeper flavor, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I had just a sample at the brewery. One of the twins, the owners are twins. And one of the twins gave me a sample. And it was really good, but it was nothing compared to this. This bottled version is so much better. It's probably sold out now, but...
Yeah. I didn't know where the name came from, but... Yeah, twins! Woohoo!
Exactly. That's really, really nice. Mm-hmm. And being red, not quite blood red, it really does tie into this story, unfortunately. Because it really could have been anyone that was the victim of this man. All right, I will mention there's definitely some trigger warnings for this story because it deals with rape and murder of minors. Never good things.
No.
For this story, we have to go back to 1990. So August 1990 was a bad time for the small city of Gainesville, Florida. This was especially true for the area around University of Florida. A drifter moved into the wooded area near some apartment buildings where many students lived, including the victims of this case. He set up a tent to make his camp, but did not lie in waiting very long. On August 24th, 1990, the burglary, robbery, and murder spree that crippled Gainesville began. To begin the mayhem, he broke into the apartment shared by 17-year-old university freshmen Sonia Larson and Christina Powell. On entering the unit, he found Christina Powell on the couch downstairs. He loomed over her for some time before he decided to move upstairs to explore what he could find. Not creepy at all.
No. Definitely had nightmares like that.
Yeah. Sure. Unfortunately for Sonia Larson, she was at home and in bed on the second floor. He taped her mouth shut before she knew what was happening to ensure she could not scream for help. He then stabbed her to death. To her credit, she did not go out without a fight. With the first murder complete, he headed back downstairs to the unsuspecting Christina Powell because it was quiet enough that she didn't know what happened. He taped her mouth shut, bound her wrists behind her back. Then he proceeded to cut the clothes off of her. Yeah. Unfortunately for Christina, this monster raped her before he proceeded to stab her in the back 5 times. In some ways, Sonia Larson was lucky as he only raped her after he had killed her.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Before he left the scene, he posed both bodies in sexually provocative positions. This guy was fucked.
Yeah, and that's such a quite a common, I don't know what to say. It's disgusting.
Yes.
And what makes it more disgusting is that it's common.
Agreed.
In these cases. It's not common, you know what I mean? But, like, you haven't done enough? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. So he did not waste time, as the next day, on August 25th, he broke into 18-year-old Krista Hoyt's apartment. I think that's how you pronounce her name. He gained access using a combat knife and a screwdriver to pry open the sliding glass door. Just, if you want to have nightmares. No one was at home at the time of the break-in, so he hid inside the apartment. She arrived at 11 a.m., and he surprised her from behind, putting her into a chokehold. Once he had her under control, he got back to the MO of taping her mouth shut, binding her wrists behind her back. He then led her to her bedroom. Fortunately for Christina Hoyt, his MO did not stop there, as he proceeded to cut off her clothes and raped her also. Much like the day before, Powell was forced face down while he stabbed her in the back, actually rupturing her heart.
Oh my God.
This time, he escalated beyond just rape and murder, though. He decapitated her and posed her head on a shelf facing her body.
Oh my God.
But that's not even how fucked up it gets. He posed her body on the bed, sitting but slouched. He cut her from chest to pubic bone and sliced off her nipples. Like, how fucked up can you get?
And like such an escalation.
Yeah.
Too. You were saying this is the next day.
The next day, yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously the first one was horrible, but there wasn't mutilation.
Yeah.
And one day, I mean, that you hear about serial killers and how they escalate, or even before they become serial killers, there's an escalation in their violence. But like 24 hours, holy shit.
Yeah. On August 26th, one of the first victims, Christina Powell, would not answer her phone or door for her parents, so they reported her missing to the police. So the police arrived at her apartment and found her and Sonia Larson's bodies. Later that same night, police also found Christina Hoyt. So, I mean, this is day 3 of this whole thing starting. Like, this is all happening really fast.
Wow.
But don't worry, it isn't over yet. On August 27th, he continued his reign of terror on the town when he broke into Tracy Paul's and her roommate Manny Taboda's apartment. Both victims were 23 years old. Manny was no small guy, as he was a football player and about 200 pounds. Once again, he jimmied the sliding glass door using the same tools as the other night. Mm-hmm. Our perpetrator found Manny first in his bedroom. After quite the struggle, he managed to kill the 23-year-old. The struggle got the attention of Tracy Pauls, unfortunately, and she came out of her room to investigate what was going on. She saw him in Manny's room, but he also saw her. She fled back to her room and proceeded to barricade her bedroom door. Unfortunately, he was able to smash his way through her door and get to her. He killed her much like he had with the other victims the few days before. These attacks were obviously sexually motivated, as he left Manny's body as it was, opposed Tracy as he had with the other young women. Either that night or the next day, their bodies were found by police. It was a bit unclear on the details when I was reading all the articles. As can be expected, this story was receiving massive attention from the media very quickly. The vicious nature and the speed of the murders was very concerning to Gainesville. Students were taking extra precautions, including changing their routines and making sure to sleep in groups. The campus shut its doors for a full week after these murders, with as many as 34,000 students fleeing home.
Wow.
With the killing spree happening early in the fall semester, some of the students went as far as to withdraw their enrollment and transfer to other universities.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt.
Yeah, I can't blame them.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right?
Even other students bought baseball bats and mace for protection while adding more locks to their doors. They even went to the lengths of sleeping in shifts to ensure someone was always awake in their apartments.
God, that's horrible.
Totally agree. Sorority houses hired full-time security guards to ensure that they were not hit by this killer. And police were also flying helicopters every night in the area with searchlights full blast all night.
Wow.
All said and done, this monster murdered and defiled 5 students, 1 from Santa Fe College and 4 from the University of Florida. Other than Manny, all 4 were women. They were all petite Caucasian women, all brunettes, and all had brown eyes. So to say these women were targeted would be an understatement. He must have stalked these women and most likely spied on them in their houses. He's
very defined, very specific type then.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't think I've heard about this. I mean, maybe I have.
I hadn't, but it seems to be a fairly big story when I was looking at it.
Yeah. I find with the amount of true crime stuff that I read and listen to and watch, it's almost sad that there's stuff like that. There's stories that I still haven't heard of.
Yeah, there shouldn't be that much, but there is.
People are fucked up.
Yes, they are. All right. A long investigation began with upwards of 6,500 leads and 1,500 pieces of evidence. Initially, the police identified 2 suspects. One was a university student with mental health issues who had numerous scars on his face from a car accident. This made him the perfect predator for the media to discuss during their investigation.
Because he has scars, so he must be a fucking monster.
And he's got some mental health issues. So he is suddenly the evil.
Thing.
Oh, no, it's totally not. Fortunately, for both of these subjects, their names were cleared when they finally found the real killer. So luckily for everyone involved, the hunt for the killer did not take too long, as they arrested him on September 7th. And if you remember, the last killing was on the 27th of August. So they caught him pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
Linking him to the murders were the knife, the screwdriver, and other tools he used to commit these heinous crimes. They also found audio diaries that alluded to the rape and murder of the 5 unfortunate students at the camp. I guess it is time to actually use the scumbag's name. Danny Rolling, originally of Shreveport, Louisiana, was finally charged on all 5 counts of murder in November 1991.
I mean, maybe you're going to get to this, but did he have previous...
I'll get to that. Yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah.
Patience. Not my strong point. Okay.
And mine either. After his arrest, police in Louisiana added to the case by alerting Florida authorities of an unsolved triple homicide in Shreveport on November 4th, 1989. So again, not that long before, really.
Mm-mm.
This murder had similarities to the Gainesville murders, with 55-year-old William Grissom and his 24-year-old daughter, Julie, and her 8-year-old grandson, Sean, all being murdered. They were preparing for dinner when they were attacked in their home. The males were left alone after they were murdered, but Julie Grissom had been mutilated, cleaned, and then posed. So there's your answer.
2 seconds, like if I had to just waited 2 seconds. That's what I'm talking about. No patience here. No. Not on this side. Go.
It happens. It's kind of like this killer didn't have a lot of patience, it seems.
Don't compare me to this freaking nutter.
Okay, sorry. All right, it took almost 4 years for Danny Rolling to be brought to trial by Alachua County State Attorney Len Register. I think that's how you pronounce the county.
Yeah.
Initially, yeah, exactly, totally nailed it.
Yeah.
Oh, initially Danny denied committing the murders, but in the end, DNA tests ultimately showed, without a reasonable doubt, he was responsible. In 1994, before the trial could begin in earnest, Danny Rolling unexpectedly pled guilty to all charges, telling the judge,
Your Honor, I've been running from first one thing and then another all my life, whether from problems at home or with the law or from myself. But there are some things that you just can't run from, and this being one of those.
How old did you say he was?
Or
did you? I'm not sure.
Don't think I have yet.
Okay.
I will tell you when we get there.
Okay.
I can't remember, sorry.
No, don't be. I'm just, he just sounds young, but he's still kind of trying to be the victim a little bit in that statement.
Now, he's not super young. He ended up claiming that he did what he did to become a superstar like Ted Bundy.
He's not a fucking superstar.
Yeah, well, to a killer he might be, right?
I know what you're saying, but
and it's not what I'm saying, it's what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know.
And to me, this is even more horrific, as Ted Bundy himself savagely attacked 5 women on the campus of Florida State University, killing 2 of them. So again, in Florida. That's probably why I idolized him.
Yeah.
Once his guilty plea was put in, the state attorney, Rod Smith, began the penalty phase of the case. He was sentenced to death on all counts during this portion of the trial. He attributed his behavior to the abuse he suffered at the hands of his father and the evil alter ego he had. Like so many capital punishment cases, it took a long time for this execution date to come. Danny Rolling was executed by lethal injection at Florida State Prison on October 25th, 2006.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is only after his lawyers attempted one last-ditch appeal. 2006.
I know.
He committed these murders in 1990.
I wonder what the average, pardon the wording, what's the average wait time on that? You know what I mean?
Take your number.
I'm definitely going to look it up. Yeah, because I was recently, which true crime podcast was I listening to? And they were talking about a criminal foregoing all of their trials and all of their appeals to just go straight to the death penalty. And it still took years. Even though there was no trials,
yeah.
They weren't waiting for that, and it still takes I mean, I don't get it, but I mean, we don't really have that here, so.
No, exactly. So to add insult to injury, before the execution, in front of family members of the victims who were there as witnesses, he was asked if he had any last words. Instead of saying anything, he made eye contact with one of the mothers of the victims and began singing a gospel hymn.
What?
Yeah. Rowling was 52 years old at the time he was pronounced dead, at 6:13 p.m., a total of 13 minutes after he started singing. To give some closure to the cold case in Louisiana, Rowling made a written statement shortly before his execution confessing to the murders of the Grissom family.
I mean, as much as I don't want to give any kind of credit to a piece of shit like this,
Yeah.
at least that family got closure.
That's
You know
true,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Well, if there was anyone left to get closure from it.
Yeah.
It would be wrong to not get into the life of Danny Rowling a bit before I finish my story. But I wanted to talk about the victims first, you know.
Because they're the ones that matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's just a piece of shit. Danny Rowling, known as the Gainesville Ripper, was born in Shreveport, Louisiana on May 26, 1954. His parents were James and Claudia Rowling, and he had one brother, Kevin. His father was a Shreveport police officer and a horrible abuser. James Rowling liked to tell Danny he was unwanted from birth. One of the examples of abuse that Danny suffered was having his father pin him to the floor and handcuff him. He would then get fellow officers to take him away, all just for embarrassing him. His father also sent his wife to the hospital, where she claims he tried to force her to cut herself with a razor blade. But obviously there was enough injury that she still had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So he doesn't sound like a nice guy. So, you know, it seems like a lot of these serial killers usually come from shitty upbringings.
Yeah. Not exclusively, but frequently.
Frequently, yeah. Mm-hmm. As a teenager and a young adult, he was arrested for robberies in Georgia. In what would become part of his M.O., he was caught peeping on women while they got dressed in their homes.
That is so fucking creepy.
Yeah. He even spent some time in prison for his crimes.
Not enough.
Not enough, yeah, obviously. With someone as disturbed as this, it's not hard to believe that he had trouble fitting in with his peers, and he had a hard time holding down a job.
But his social skills are so amazing.
Exactly.
I don't understand.
He did work as a waiter for some time in a Shreveport restaurant, though. In May of 1990, only months before his killing spree, he attempted to kill his father during a family argument. His father lost an eye and an ear while he was shot in the face, but survived.
Wow.
Now, I'm not gonna cry for his father because he was a piece of shit too, but wow.
Well, if he shot someone in the face, how long was he in jail for that? Unknown.
1 second ago.
Oh, God.
After this
Even my
attack,
subconscious is impatient.
after this attack, he fled Shreveport, where he crisscrossed the country.
Oh, I see.
He committed robberies along the way to support himself. Mm-hmm. He ended up in Kansas City, where he robbed a few grocery stores and a Taco Bell. Why a Taco Bell, I don't know. But
well, I mean,
they made sure to announce
this?
that. This was in 1990.
Yeah, I mean, Taco Bell was raking it in the early 90s, not like now. I mean, people didn't even care
now we
what
actually
they were
want,
eating.
Now we want Mexican food, not whatever that is.
Brown squishy paste.
Yeah.
Called meat.
Danny Rowling was also a talented musician and brought along his guitar and would play and sing in parks and bars for extra cash. After making multiple collect calls to his family in July 1990, where they would urge him to turn himself in, he decided to make his move.
He shot his dad in the face and they were still accepting the charges for the collect calls?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Well, it doesn't sound like a great family.
No.
He was on parole and violated parole when he shot his father, and he was determined to stay out of prison. From here, he made his way through a few towns in Florida before settling in Gainesville. Danny Rowling was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and paraphilia. For those that do not know what paraphilia is,
Thank you.
Here is the definition from Wikipedia. It is the experience of intense sexual arousal to atypical objects, situations, fantasies, behaviors, or individuals. Such attraction may be labeled sexual fetishism. No consensus has been found for any precise border between unusual sexual interests and paraphilic ones.
That doesn't actually sound that bad.
But it can be very criminal at the same time, right?
Yeah. But I mean, it's like, I feel like it's the scientific definition of being like sexually freaky.
Yeah. I think that's why they're saying it's hard to tell the difference between unusual sexual interests, like being freaky or being into BDSM and all that, and being a paraphiliac, which is not a good thing.
Right. Okay, so being a paraphiliac is when you've crossed that
definitely,
line.
Yeah.
And otherwise
rape and murder
just,
and stuff, yeah.
Freaky, and that's fine.
Yeah. There was no doubt that this man was sick, and he should have not been out in the public. As much as I am not a fan of the death penalty, this may have been the best outcome for this case. The vile things that he did to all 8 victims cannot be written off. Danny Rowling was a monster, possibly of his father's creation, but a monster nonetheless. Good riddance, and I hope that his death gave the victims' families some form of closure. But there's no real closure in murder cases. No.
It's just horrific, and
yeah. And then
hopefully they can still live their lives and not be shrouded in grief.
Yeah, and totally be shattered, which they probably are. But like many true crime stories, the story of the Gainesville Ripper inspired many films and TV shows. Probably the one to become the most mainstream, the movie slasher film Scream, with the script written by Kevin Williamson.
I haven't actually seen that, which for somebody like our age is horrible, right?
Yeah, that's pretty sad. I mean, that was like the horror movie.
I don't like it, though. I don't like scary movies. I know, because I'm all about true crime and stuff, but I don't like scary movies.
That's amazing.
My imagination is hyperactive enough. I don't need encouragement.
I'm just surprised, because you like watching shows all about it, too. So, I mean...
It's, less scary to me if it's true crime. I don't know why.
I don't know either. But that's my story of the Gainesville Ripper. Not a
aptly
nice dude.
Named.
Yeah, that was a fun story. Not.
The names that they give these, serial killers, like Gainesville Ripper... and I get that it's the media that does this.
Yeah.
And as much as I find those names interesting, I don't know that it's a good idea, It's like you're encouraging them by giving them this, I don't know what to call it, like a superhero name, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
But not superhero, just you're encouraging their fame by giving them a nickname.
Yeah, supervillain nickname.
Yeah.
It's kind of where I got the inspiration to talk about the victims first, listening to a show called Real Crime Profiles, which is done by a former FBI profiler, a former Scotland Yard profiler, and then a woman who works for, what show was it again? She's the casting director for one of the crime shows. Yeah. And they almost never mention the killer's names. They only talk about the profile and the victim. So I kind of thought I'd change it up a little bit.
I was just listening to it today, and I forget, so...
Yeah.
Sorry for people who also listen to that podcast. We're sorry, okay?
It's not our fault.
We're at least 2 beers in here.
Yeah, exactly.
Give us a break. But yeah, it's such a good show. But yeah, I don't understand. And especially for the ones where they have multiple names.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Well, often the multiple names, they start out with one name, and then there's another series of killings or something that they don't think are connected, and they give that a name, and then something else a name, and then realize it's all the same bloody person.
Yeah, or 2 different media outlets have assigned and 2 different names.
Yeah, that's true too.
At the same time. I feel like Wine and Crime did an episode like this.
They could have, yeah.
Yeah.
They always do fun shows.
Love them.
Yeah, me too. All right, well, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy the show, check us out on Twitter at Brew Crime. You can check us out on all the social media for Pacific Beer Chats. You can get us at brewcrime at pacificbeerchat.com or at brewcrime.com.
And we'll have to get a Facebook page going soon.
One of these
people
years.
Can leave their comments and whatnot.
Definitely.
I guess I should do that since you're doing basically everything else.
Go for it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for listening. Cheers. Brew Crime's intro was created using Creative Commons Attribution Licensed Audio from purple-planet.com, soundbible.com, and freesoundeffects.com. This has been a production of pacificbeerchat.com. Hey, awesome, you're still with us. I had originally wanted to play a portion of this song during the episode, but I had not received permission yet. I have now gotten permission from the YouTuber Sam Warden. This is Mystery Rider by Danny Rowling, aka the Gainesville Ripper. It's sad how good this song is because Danny Ruling, if he wasn't so messed up, could have been a really good musician. So hope you enjoy. And if you want to see more about this, we will put a link to the video on the webpage at brewcrime.com. Thanks.
Jingling spurs rolling into town. Oh, black stallion, you bring a grim reaper, dressed in snake-hide, worn black leather. Mystery writer, what's your name? You're a killer, adrift, gone insane. Mystery writer, what's your game? You're a rebel, no one can tame. Welcome, stranger, to the Silver Dollar Bar. What's your pleasure? Asked the tender with a big cigar. Give me a whiskey, 'cause I'm feeling a little risky. If that 10 stars in town, you tell him I'm around. Mystery writer, what's your name? You're a killer, drifted, gone insane. Mystery writer, what's your game? You're a rebel, no one can tame. Mystery writer, what's your name? You're a killer, adrift, gone insane. Mystery writer, what's your game? You're a rebel, no one can tame.